So ja, goeienaand Simon en welkom, goeiemiddag seker en welkom weer eens by ons Suidlanders Gesels program en ons het Dinsdag met mekaar gepraat oor wat alles daar in die Midde-Ooste aan die gang is en Amerika wat gaan vir Irak bom en al hierdie dinge. Jy het gesê daar's redelik baie meer inligting wat jy met ons kan deel hieroor. So sonder verder ophou, gooi ek dit oor na jou kant toe Simon.
Dankie Marius. Where to start? I've written lots and lots of notes here. It seems as if the attack on Iran to prevent it from enriching uranium to make a nuclear bomb is certain. Tucker Carlson has just done an interview with Professor Jeffrey Sachs, in which Tucker Carlson, who is not just the number one journalist by tens of millions in the world, but who is also a very, very well-connected person, he insisted in the interview, when Professor Jeffrey Sachs was a bit uncomfortable answering one question, that the attack on Iran is inevitable. Klar.
Yeah.
As I mentioned on Tuesday, the world, that is to say, received a leak from the White House about 12 days ago saying that the attack would happen within between 30 and 45 days. Benjamin Netanyahu apparently said in response to a question that there will be an attack. It seems as if Iran has closed some of its airspace without notifying anybody. I'm not qualified to speak in a technical manner about what the research that I've done on this. So I'm going to speak in childlike layman's terms. Apparently, it appears as if patches of Irani airspace have been closed, but the Iranis have not announced that to anybody. It's only boffins who understand these things, who can figure it out from some or other transponder, what that is not functioning, or transponders, I should say. So who knows? But certainly it is doing the rounds. This I don't want to use the word allegation because it's being described in a far more professional, technical, scientific manner than some broad allegation in these certain very, very high-level warfare channels. So those channels themselves are buying into it. They're saying, well, Johnny Smith over there is a tip-top transponder duty, and he's saying that the transponders have been turned off or turned on or whatever in 16 different areas in Iran. That means that the Iranis have closed off that airspace. Now, you might say, well, if there's no announcement, somebody might just fly through there and get shot down. What these chaps are saying is no. You have to file a flight plan before you fly anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
So they believe that in the next couple of days, it's going to turn out that planes that have sought the right to fly on route ABC rather than DEF had their flight plan rejected. So right now, all we know is that apparently certain scientific machinery is giving the game away, but that we're going to find out in the next couple of days that patches of Irani airspace have been closed. Over the past couple of hours, the presidents of the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Jordan, and others unnamed have called the Irani president to say that we know what's coming. We will not let the USA use our airspace to attack you. Allah be praised and good luck for what's coming. About $2 trillion has been lost in US markets over the past few days. Economics observers are putting it down to Donald Trump's tariffs. But those experts who have a broader view, who are not just stock market analysts or what have you, the economics guys are saying, oh, it's all to do with tariffs.
Okay.
But people who have a much broader view are saying that it's not solely to do with tariffs, that the super elites of the world, those people who, for instance, shorted American Airlines stocks prior to 9/11 happening, those sorts of super elite are pulling money out of the US stock market because of the coming war with Iran. So there I think we've sketched a good background.
Yeah.
I think people understand what is tonight's conversation about. It's about the apparent likelihood that the USA is going to attack Iran. Now, I'll briefly mention what is the reason for the attack, and then we'll go on to the practical net effect for Suidlanders. The reason is that Iran has been enriching uranium to build a nuclear bomb. When you mine uranium, I don't know if you remember this from school, I was no good at chemistry, but elements are found in different forms, and those different forms are called isotopes.
Yeah.
So you get uranium that's 235, and you get uranium that's 232, and so on. Uranium 235 is what is used for nuclear purposes. In its naturally occurring state, uranium, only 0.7% of uranium, let's say this in layman's terms, very childlike terms, but it'll help me and everybody else, I hope. Imagine you took a spade and you shoved it into a pile of uranium, and you pulled off carried off the spade off to one side. You had about 4 kilograms of stuff lying on top of your spade. Only 0.7% of that would be uranium U-235. In order to run a power station, such as Coburg, E5 inside it, to make nuclear bombs, you need to enrich it to have about 20% 235 isotope, uranium isotope. What has transpired over time is that the Iranis have reached the point where they have not produced any nuclear bombs, and they do not have adequate uranium-235, that is to say, stockpiles that have been enriched to 20% of the stockpile being 235. But they are apparently very close to. They're not pursuing it. What they've done is a bit like in a cowboy movie. The good guy, he hasn't fired a shot yet, but he's put his hand on his pistol, on his revolver's handle. So the Iranis apparently perceive a threat from Israel and the USA. This is their point of view. We don't have to agree with them. But that our opinion counts for nothing, obviously. Not when it comes to how they see the world and what actions they're taking. In their opinion, they are vulnerable to Israel and the USA. Therefore, they have positioned themselves to be able to whip up stockpiles of 20% enriched uranium for bombs purposes at short notice. Now, that short notice is debated. They say it would take us a couple of months. The CIA, who has lied to us about every single thing that they've ever said to us, with no exceptions whatsoever, certainly in my lifetime, claim, as the Israelis do, that the Iranis could do it within one day.
True.
Based purely upon my own personal experience, I've no doubt that that is a lie. Nevertheless, somewhere between 24 hours and a few months lies the truth. On the basis that they can do it within a day, the Israelis have commanded the USA to attack Iran. This is the opinion of Professor Jeffrey Sachs, of Professor Mearsheimer, Colonel McGregor. The list goes on and on and on. They're all saying the same thing, that the Israelis have whistled for their dog to come to attack Iran. Okay, so now we understand the background to the story. The Israelis believe that they're going to be bombed to oblivion. The Iranis are saying, no, we don't want to. We don't want that. We don't need an existential war. Why would we do it? But right now there's an impasse in the conversation. It's reached the point where everybody has said everything that was ever worth saying. And now it's time for action, apparently. According to Israeli media, I'm going to quote verbatim, this will be an unprecedented assault, the biggest since World War II.
Sure.
When that happens, the first effect is going to be the closing down of the Straits of Hormuz. In English, if you have the word straight and it's missing the G and the H, so it's not S-T-R-A-I-G-H-T, it's just S-T-R-A-I-T, it means a narrowing in a body of water. The Straits of Hormuz are a point in the Persian Gulf where the Persian Gulf is very narrow. The Persian Gulf is that bit like the Red Sea. It's a salient, it's a long prong, if you like, that runs in between two large land masses. So the Red Sea, we all know, runs up, it's quite narrow, it runs up between Egypt and the African continent, Asia, southwestern Arabia. Similarly, the Persian Gulf runs up from the Indian Ocean up between two huge Arabian land masses to a narrowing point where Iraq comes down. There's a piece of Iraq that adjoins the passageway, the body of water, and Kuwait and Iran. They all sort of cluster around there. With the result, and there are other little countries too, there are a number of oil-producing Arab nations or Arab countries. Strictly speaking, Iran is not an Arab country, but let's keep it simple for the ordinary listener. They all meet there on that body of water, and they pump the natural gas and the fuel, the crude oil, the petroleum that they export onto tankers that then proceed down that waterway and out to the world. And it's a little bit less than 30% of the world's natural gas uses that waterway, or is exported via that waterway, and roughly a third of the world's petroleum, oil. Now, if the USA and Israel attack Iran, one of the first things that will happen is that it will be shut down. Both the Persian Gulf, if we speak generally about the Persian Gulf, but more particularly, the experts talk about the Straits of Hormuz, the narrows of Hormuz, there where it's so easy to shut it down. That will be shut down in 1 second flat. And about 30%, a little bit less, of the world's natural gas and roughly a third of the world's petroleum, crude oil, will be removed from the market. A similar thing happened, not quite the same thing, but a similar thing happened after the Six-Day War of 1973, when a bunch of Arab nations attacked Israel, and Israel cornered them, gave them a good hiding. I beg your pardon, not the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War of October 1973, I apologize. In response, a number of Arab nations said, you know what, this is unfair. Yes, Israel was attacked first, that's true. But the USA and the United Nations have allowed Israel to get away with absolute murder since forever. And they keep illegally occupying Palestinian land and doing all sorts of horrible things. So we're going to stand with our Palestinian brothers. And OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, that is to say those countries, Arab countries, where they have relatively low populations living in deserts, so they don't have dense populations like countries that have temperate or tropical climates, where food is very easily produced and where over thousands of years the populations have grown to be enormous. Countries where they produce, but they don't consume their petroleum. They banded together and call themselves the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, because 95%, 99% of the petroleum they produce is exported. They banded together and they embargoed the USA and some other countries. This is all in 1973. And between one thing and another, the price of oil, of fuel in your car, went up hugely. All over the world, it increased an average of 400% if you could get it. And I fear, Marius, that we are staring down the barrel of that gun again. I've got lots more to describe to you, but since I've done the introduction and the background and sketched the scenario, perhaps I should give you a chance to comment or ask questions if you have any.
Nee, Simon, nie regtig nie. Ek het ook maar net, soos jy gesien, van hierdie dinge op sosiale media gesien, nou nie in diepte soos wat jy dit bestudeer nie, maar ek en van my familielede het gister gepraat en dit is definitief wat ons die gevolgtrekking wat ons almal in ons min kennis tot by mekaar gekom het, en dit is as hierdie bom gaan ontplof van Amerika wat vir Irak gaan aanval en dan die petrolprys gaan 'n nagmerrie wees in ons land. En en dit is maar half die enigste ding wat ons nou in ons min kennis half tot by mekaar gekom het om vir mekaar te sê, luister hier, as dit gebeur en die petrolprys skiet die hoogte en die petrol-dieselprys skiet die hoogte in, wat is die nagevolge wat dit vir ons gaan hê as 'n familie, as 'n vriendekring, as mense wat hier op 'n plaas bly ensovoorts. En dit was nogal interessant met die gesels wat daarna plaasgevind het met ons. So ek dink jy sal ons seker ook meer daaroor inlig, Simon.
Yeah, well, the long and the short of it, Marius, is that if this attack takes place, the Straits of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf will be shut down, and that portion of global petroleum production will be removed from the market. And that portion is significantly greater than the crimping. In Afrikaans, you use the same word as we use in English. The crimping of the supply that took place in 1973. So we can expect that the global average increase in price will be more than 400%. So you would be looking at about 100 Rand a litre for fuel, if you can get it.
Yeah.
What will probably transpire immediately is that the government will take similar steps to the steps that the government took during apartheid in 1973, 52 years ago. In all likelihood, within a very short span of time, the government will curtail sales of fuel to prevent people buying up. In other words, the first guy gets to the pump, he goes via the money lender, 3 o'clock in the morning, knocks on the guy's door. He says, here are the title deeds to my house. I reckon I can't lose. I can only win here. Give me 500,000 Rand for my house. I'll pawn my house to you. Take 500,000 Rand and go down to the Shell and buy up all the stockpiles, the supplies. That's an extreme, slightly childish scenario that I've sketched, but the principle is valid. The people who get there first will buy everything that they can, leaving some people with their fingers in their eyes, wiping away the tears. So the government will immediately say, you can only buy 20 litres a day unless you get a special dispensation. If you're a taxi operator, or if you own a fleet of trucks, or you deliver food, one of these owner-driver arrangements, you deliver food to Woolworths, well, then you can have 50 litres a day. One way or the other, supply is going to be terribly reduced.
Yeah.
And the price is going to go up hugely. Gold exceeded $3,200 today. Not in the spot price that everybody watches, but in one of the longer bets. They understand. I've studied gold and economics and finance and the dollar and what have you his whole life long. And he knows nothing about politics. And this very limited group of guys is saying that, yes, all of those are contributory factors. But part of why gold is having this run, it raced through $3,000 last week. Then it raced through $3,100 on Sunday, if I remember correctly. Yesterday it was at 3,172. Today it's at over 3,200. The gold price is moving like scarcely in the history of gold trading. Partly because of the threat of this war in the Middle East. My point being that the wealthiest, the cleverest, the best informed are panicking like hell. And it's not being reported in the mainstream media at all. It's all about, well, the dollar's up and the pound is shifting slightly and we're waiting for an announcement by the Bank of England. And the majority of observers lack the breadth of vision to gain a holistic understanding of what is happening. So I just mentioned the gold as an aside to contribute to this sketch that we're sketching for the Suidlanders audience. Right. Which brings us to what can we do? And I have to tread very, very carefully here because I don't want to be guilty of causing hysteria. Let it suffice to say that if anybody says in the media tomorrow, as I see some fool was commenting this morning, some supposed boffin, that the right wing of South Africa is a threat. The threat to what, I don't know, because I don't know a right winger who has been convicted of rape or murder, or not paying taxes or doing something dastardly. We are unquestionably the most conservative, ordinary, decent, respectable people in this country. As a class, that's just a fact. However, people will take advantage of anything that I say. Therefore, I must tread very carefully. If you can't afford it, don't. Don't buy it. Don't do anything foolish that jeopardizes your family's welfare. Don't get money from a moneylender. Don't think drastic. Don't be a fool. However, if you can afford it, you will never regret buying any amount of fuel. If you buy 100,000 liters, between now and the end of your life, you're going to use all 100,000 of that 100,000 liters, or you're going to leave it in your will to your children, and it'll probably be worth 16 times what you paid for it. It is not a matter of Suidlanders policy. I'm not speaking on behalf of Mr. Miller. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Onderleiersraad, the national leadership. I'm merely offering you a commentary with some advice, as I have been doing, and I think fairly successfully. We've gotten terrific responses to the work that you and I have done over the past, call it a year for the sake of a round number. It's not quite a year. We're just doing the same as we've always done.
Yeah.
And it comes down to this. We don't know what's going to happen. This whole thing might blow away. There are all sorts of people shrieking from the rooftops, please negotiate, negotiate, negotiate. Send an inspection team to Iran. Iran has offered scores of times to host inspection teams. They've said they'll open every single door. Go and have a look to see if they've got enriched uranium, 20% enriched uranium. You'll pick it up on the Doppler meters easily. Please go and inspect rather than drop bombs on them. And perhaps their pleas will work in the end. But it's not looking that way. Therefore, it may be very wise for those people who can afford it to buy fuel while it is freely available under circumstances of non-panic. If a Suidlander, as I said to one of my sons yesterday morning, if you hear that Donald Trump has dropped bombs on Iran, go immediately and buy 200 liters of petrol.
Yeah.
If I thought that he would listen to me, I would have said to him, go and buy 1,000. Scratch some money together between you and your brother and your mommy. You'll manage. You'll find 20 grand quite easily. One of his brothers is, he's not wealthy, but he's cash positive. He's trading.
Yeah.
And he's got cash. So he can, as we say in English, borrow from Peter to pay Paul. He can take this money out of one business and throw it at something if he's hospital emergency or whatever. Between them, they'll scratch up 20 or 25 grand easily. But I thought that 1,000 liters was pushing it. So I said to him 200. And he said, yes, Dad. He's willing to do that. And I suppose that I'm saying a similar thing to anybody who's willing to listen.
Yeah.
As long as you understand that we don't know for sure what's going to happen. We're only speculating, but we're speculating upon the best intelligence available in the world. Tucker Carlson, I remind you, getting 160 million views of video. Father, famous CIA operator. That guy knows more than you and I don't know that we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, his sources are telling him it is inevitable, it shall happen. Now on that basis, we're saying to you, beloved Suidlanders, hey, if this is inevitable, if it's going to happen, then we know for certain that there will be an interruption, a massive interruption of global fuel supplies. Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Iraq won't be able to export, Iran, the list goes on. And there will be there will be a knock-on effect among other countries, Saudi Arabia, for example. So now let's sketch a kind of a worst-case scenario. If we're actually talking about not an interruption of roughly 30%, or a third, I should say, of global fuel supply, but we're actually talking about 40, 45, 50, 60%, we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And the only advice that one can give is, if you can afford it, you will never regret it. Because unlike other things, you will use it. You'll use it next month, and the month after, and the month after that, and so on ad infinitum.
Mm.
And I think that's just about the long and the short of it, Marius. I'd love to hear what questions or thoughts you have, but I think that I've said in a 35-minute nutshell about as much as one can say on this subject. We've explained the background, we've sketched the scenario, we've reached a sort of concluding point. I'm going to hand over to you.
Ja, Simon, nee, ek stem heeltemal 100% saam met jou. Ek kan dit nie beter gesê het nie. As jy die geldjies het, as jy dit kan doen, gaan koop vir jou 'n bietjie brandstof. Weet jy wat, maar volg jou eie kop, gaan doen jou eie navorsing, moenie net dit doen en op die ouende blameer jy vir my en Simon en sê, maar luister, ek het al my universiteitsgeld gaan trek om brandstof te koop, oor julle so gesê het die, maar as jy jou navorsing gaan doen en jy sien, so Simon sê, die ouens so Tucker Carlson en sovoorts praat van dat dit gaan gebeur, dis net a matter of time, hulle praat van, so Simon gesê het, van 'n paar dae af na 30 dae se kant toe is min of meer wat hulle die tydlyn vir dit gee. Of ek bedoel, hou jy daai geldjies gereed en soos Simon nou sê, as die bomme val, as jy hoor die bom het geval en jy voel dan meer gerus om dit te gaan koop, gaan onmiddellik en gaan koop dit. Ek weet, ek gaan definitief probeer om 'n paar liter ekstra te koop binne in die volgende 2 weke of so. as laat my geld dit ook toelaat. Maar ja, Simon, weer eens, baie dankie vir jou gesels, soos jy sê, ons doen dit nou al amper 'n jaar lank, nog nie heeltemal nie, maar amper 'n jaar lank, dit het van Radio Groot Rivier af nou gegaan na die video gedeelte toe van Suidlanders Media. As jy tot sover toe in hierdie video al gekyk het, wil ek net die luisteraars vra, ook maar wat almal altyd vra, like die video, subscribe, gee 'n paar comments by, onthou in die comments gedeeltes kan ons dalk 'n paar idees kry waaroor ons nog kan gesels en so voort, maar dit help die algoritme. Ek hou nie daarvan as almal dit aan mekaar in elke liewe video vra nie, so ek gaan dit nie in elke liewe video doen nie, maar dit help met die groei van die kanaal, dit help met die algoritme, so like, share, comment, al daai tipe dingetjies. En Simon, ja, weer eens baie dankie vir jou tyd. Ons maak dan weer volgende week en donderdag so.
Yeah, 100%. I look very much forward to it, Marius, not least because, as I've mentioned previously, and I hope that this doesn't, the expression is from the sublime to the ridiculous. Sublime means almost heavenly. Ridiculous, obviously, worthy of ridicule, worthy of mockery. I hope that I don't change the tone of this video in some people's eyes from the sublime to the ridiculous. But I hasten to remind people that not Simon Roche, but others, we're only quoting others, the top rabbis in the world are saying that World War III must be started this coming Passover. I'm not saying we must believe what they believe. I'm not saying we must anything. All I'm saying is that next week, as you mentioned next week, will be the week before Passover 2025. So it'll be our opportunity to chat a little bit about what they expect to occur the following week.
Yeah.
And if nothing comes of it, well, there's probably nothing lost either, Marius.
Ja, dit kan 'n baie interessante gesprek raak, Simon, ek sien baie uit daarna.
Fixed up, 100%. Thank you, Marius. Good evening to you.
Dat is lekker aan, Simon, tot ziens.
Cheerio, bye.
Dat is en soos altyd het ons met Simon Roche gesels, of Roche gesels, en ja, was vir 'n hele geruime tyd lank, wat het ons hierdie program op Radio Groot Rivier aangebied. Ons het nou oorbeweeg na die sosiale videokant toe van dinge, en soos ek vroeër in die video gesê het, gee asseblief die video 'n like as jy aangehou kyk het tot hierdie toe, 'n share, 'n subscribe, 'n comment gedeelte. Ek gaan ook 'n hele reeks begin doen oor ons boerehelde, gaan begin met die kinderhelde, soos byvoorbeeld Rageltjie de Beer en Japie Greyling, Dirkie Eis, en dan beweeg na van ons groter boerehelde toe, die Teron, en al die manne wat ons van weet, Pieter Tief, Paul Creer ensovoorts. As daar dalk 'n gedenksteen is van iemand in jou dorpie wat dalk 'n belangrike rol gespeel het in die Boereoorlog, die Vryheidsoorlog, in ons boeregeskiedenis, laat weet my. Want ek dink daar's so baie Suid-Afrikaners wat regdeur ons land ry en nie eers weet jy wat, hier op Van Reinsdorp lê Piet Koekemoer en dit is wat hy vir die boere gedoen het, of hierso in die dorpie daar in die Oos-Vrystaat lê Tannie Sari Maree en sy het koekies gebak of brode vir die boere in die kommandos gestuur en daar's 'n gedenksteentjie van haar. So ja, as jy sulke inligting het van mense wat 'n boereheld is, wat baie vir ons boere in die geskiedenis beteken het, wat dalk nie alom bekend is nie, maar wat jy weet in jou dorpie of in jou omgewing iets belangrik gedoen het, sit dit in die comments gedeelte. Ek stel baie belang aan. As jy wil weet wie jy is, kyk na jou geskiedenis, is iemand wat dit eendag vir my gesê het, en ons geskiedenis is ryk vol mense wat 'n boerehart het, 'n boeregees het, wat helde was en natuurlik wat dienaars was van ons hemelse Vader. Op daardie noot sê ek goeienaand en lekker bly.